9. Stoic lessons to free your mind from toxic thinking. Take back focus and peace. Your mind is lying to you, not to hurt you, but to protect you in the most destructive way possible. And unless you expose this lie today, it will quietly control every decision you make for the rest of your life. The root of a toxic mind. Your mind was never meant to feel this heavy. No child is born carrying invisible weights, but somewhere between innocence and adulthood, your inner world became a vault for other people's fears, their expectations, their unprocessed pain, their unfinished stories. You woke up one day inside a storm you didn't create, convinced that the chaos swirling inside your head was a personal flaw instead of a natural consequence of years spent absorbing noise you were never taught how to filter. And if you're honest, there are nights you lie in the dark wondering when your mind became an enemy, when every quiet moment turned into a battlefield, when thoughts you never asked for began to speak with a voice that sounds too much like your own. But here's the part no one tells you. The real danger was never the presence of dark thoughts. The human mind produces thousands every single day. The danger is that somewhere along the way, you started believing they meant something. You started believing they were truth. Before we go further, welcome to the Pure Stoic Practice channel, a place dedicated to clarity, discipline, and the mastery of the inner world. Hello everyone. If you value growth, wisdom, and the pursuit of a stronger mind, follow the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss new lessons that can help shape your life. And if this message resonates with you so far, subscribe now to support the channel. Your support motivates us to keep creating meaningful content. Now, breathe for a moment. Feel your chest rise and fall. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear may be the first time in your life that someone tells you the truth about your mind in a way that actually sets you free. Your thoughts are not the problem. Your belief in them is. The mind is a storyteller. It loves to create narratives, interpretations, explanations, predictions, warnings, fantasies. Most of these stories come and go like passing weather, light showers of imagination that drift across the mental sky. But some thoughts arrive like storms, heavy, dark, persuasive. They whisper that you're not enough, that you're behind, that you're failing, that you're broken in ways you can't repair. They whisper that your shame is deserved, that your fears are inevitable, that your doubts are evidence of weakness, rather than proof you're human. And the moment you believe these thoughts, they stop being stories. They become prisons. What most people never learn is that thought and truth are not the same thing. A thought is simply a neurological event, an electrical pattern firing across the brain. It has no inherent meaning until you give it meaning. It has no power until you give it power. It has no authority until you kneel before it and treat it like a verdict on who you are. But what if you didn't kneel this time? What if you didn't automatically surrender? What if you could look at the thoughts inside your mind and for the first time, see them clearly for what they are? Temporary mental impulses, not judgments on your worth. Imagine standing on the edge of a vast river. The water moves steadily, carrying leaves, sticks, petals, debris, things that drift toward you for a moment and then disappear downstream. Each leaf is a thought, appearing in your mind and then moving on. Some thoughts are beautiful, some are ugly, some are absurd, some are painful. But what keeps a thought in your life is not the thought itself, but your hand reaching out, grabbing the leaf, and holding it tightly as if it defines you. That act of grabbing is belief, and belief is what builds the cage. If you want to reclaim freedom, you must relearn the skill of letting thoughts pass, not fighting them, not suppressing them, not trying to force yourself to think only positive things, but simply allowing thoughts to come and go, as naturally as breath moves in and out. This is the foundation of mental clarity. This is the beginning of inner peace. Most people never discover this because they were never taught to look at their mind with curiosity. Instead, they were conditioned to react. A thought appears, and instantly they analyze it, fear it, attach to it, validate it, and rebuild old stories around it. They never pause long enough to ask the most important question. Is this thought actually true? Or is this just an old wound speaking? What transforms your mind is the moment you stop assuming your thoughts are facts and start treating them like hypotheses. They could be true, they could be false, they might be exaggerated, they might be fear-based, they might be echoes from childhood, they might be old survival strategies masquerading as logic. You don't know until you step back and look at them. This stepping back is where all Stoic wisdom begins. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But he never said to never have dark thoughts. The Stoics knew that the human mind, left untrained, will generate negativity as easily as it generates dreams. They understood that the goal is not to control every thought, but to control your relationship with thought, to choose what you believe, to choose what you feed, to choose which inner stories deserve your attention. But here is where most people stumble. They try to stop thinking negatively. They try to force their mind into silence. They try to control the storm by yelling at it to stop. And the harder they try to resist, the louder the mind becomes. Because resistance is fuel. Resistance gives the thought more life. Clarity comes from observation, not suppression. Peace comes from acceptance, not avoidance. Freedom comes from awareness, not force. So let's go deeper. When a painful thought appears, instead of collapsing into it, try this. Pause, breathe, and label it. That is a fear thought. That is a comparison thought. That is an insecurity pattern. That is a memory speaking, not the present moment. When you label a thought, you create distance. And distance is what allows you to see the thought clearly without drowning in it. Labeling is not denying. Labeling is acknowledging without surrendering. It's saying, I see you, but I do not accept you as truth. And in that simple shift, the thought loses its grip. The mind begins to clear. But there's a deeper reason your mind has become tangled and heavy, and we need to address it honestly. At some point in your life, you were taught to carry shame that wasn't yours. You inherited fears from parents, teachers, friends, partners who couldn't manage their own. You absorbed their worries, their criticisms, their projections, their unresolved pain. They didn't mean to burden you with it. They were doing what humans do, passing on what they didn't know how to heal. You grew up inside environments that punished mistakes, discouraged honesty, and rewarded self-silencing. You learned to distrust your instincts because someone older told you they were wrong. You learned to police your own thoughts because someone made you believe your mind was dangerous. You learned to fear your inner world because no one taught you how to navigate it. So you adapted. Your brain became hypervigilant. always scanning for danger, always anticipating rejection, always preparing for the worst. You developed stories to protect yourself. Stories that said, if I expect to be hurt, it won't hurt as much. Stories that said, if I assume I'm the problem, I can prevent the disappointment. Stories that said, if I constantly judge myself, no one else can surprise me. These stories kept you safe once, but now they keep you stuck. The truth is this: you are not your thoughts. You are the space they appear in. You are the observer behind the noise. You are the awareness noticing the chaos, not the chaos itself. The core of your mind has always been clear. It was never truly broken. It was covered by narratives that don't belong to you, covered by fear that isn't yours, covered by guilt that never belonged in your hands, covered by beliefs you inherited but never questioned, covered by assumptions you accepted as truth simply because you were too young to challenge them. But now, you're here, and you're ready to peel back the layers. You're ready to reclaim the mind beneath the noise. You're ready to remember that thoughts are visitors, not rulers. That thoughts are events, not identities. That thoughts are possibilities, not commands. That thoughts are temporary, but you are not. This is where transformation begins. Not with perfect thinking, but with honest seeing. Not with positivity, but with clarity. Not with suppressing the mind, but with understanding it. If you stay with me through this journey, through the depth and truth of what we're about to explore, you will begin to notice something extraordinary. The mind that once felt like a storm becomes a sky again, vast enough to hold every passing cloud without losing itself. And you will realize that peace was never the absence of thoughts. It was the ability to see them clearly without becoming them. This is only the beginning. And if you want more clarity, more strength, more inner mastery, subscribe to Pure Stoic Practice now. It supports the channel and helps us continue creating meaningful content for you. Your journey matters. Your mind matters. And you deserve a life not dictated by your thoughts, but built by your awareness of them. Whenever you're ready, we continue. The power of attention and state shifting. There is a moment in every life when the mind feels impossible to control. A wild storm of thoughts that seem to move on their own, growing larger every time you try to silence them. But the storm was never the true enemy. The real struggle lies in where your attention goes. The human mind was designed to think, restlessly, endlessly, creatively, chaotically. But the direction of your attention, the place where your awareness settles, that is what determines the quality of your inner world. And most people move through life without ever realizing that attention is a force, a tool, a spotlight that shapes everything it touches. Your attention is not passive. It is not neutral. It does not simply observe the world. It transforms it. Whatever you focus on expands, sharpens, and becomes the emotional landscape you live inside. Attention is the architect of meaning, the sculptor of experience, the lens through which every moment gets magnified or minimized. And until you understand this, life feels like something happening to you, rather than something happening through you. If you wake up each morning and your mind jumps immediately to what could go wrong, your world becomes a fragile place full of hidden dangers. If your attention returns repeatedly to old wounds, your present becomes a mirror reflecting past pain. If you spend the day replaying small mistakes, they grow into overwhelming judgments that stain your self-worth. And none of this occurs because reality changed. Reality stays neutral. It is your attention that paints it with emotion. Attention is the silent force that decides whether a thought becomes a cloud passing through or a storm that consumes you. It decides whether fear is a whisper or a threat, whether uncertainty is a challenge or a catastrophe, whether the present moment is peaceful or suffocating. This is why two people can live the same day and have completely different experiences, because the mind creates the world it focuses on. But if attention is that powerful, why do so many people feel powerless? Why does the mind leap so quickly into negativity while ignoring the beauty right in front of it? The answer is survival. For millions of years, the human brain evolved to search for danger, not joy. The nervous system became skilled at detecting threats, analyzing risks, and predicting future harm. Even now, in a modern world far safer than any era before, your brain still behaves like you're living in the wilderness. It hunts for problems. It fixates on the worst-case scenario. It obsesses over mistakes, flaws, and fears. And because attention amplifies whatever it touches, a single worry can bloom into anxiety, a single insecurity into self-doubt, a single memory into a defining narrative. But here is the truth the ancient Stoics discovered long before modern psychology confirmed it. Attention can be trained. It can be strengthened like a muscle, guided like a beam, redirected like a river. You do not have to be a prisoner of your automatic reactions. You do not have to accept every place your attention wanders to by habit. You can reclaim the steering wheel of your inner world. Think of attention as a spotlight in a dark theater. Right now, the spotlight may be shining on something painful, something stressful, something imaginary that your mind keeps replaying. But the stage of your life is full of countless other things: opportunities, present moment sensations, possibilities, tasks, people who care, actions you can take. When you move the spotlight, the emotional experience changes instantly. This is not spiritual mysticism. It is neuroscience. The brain reorganizes itself around what receives sustained attention. Neural pathways strengthen or weaken, depending on where the spotlight goes. A thought repeated becomes a belief. A belief repeated becomes a perspective. A perspective repeated becomes a personality. In this way, your attention shapes not only your emotional reality, but your identity itself. But don't misunderstand. Redirecting attention is not about ignoring problems or pretending everything is perfect. It is about refusing to give mental energy to imagine disasters or memories that are no longer relevant. It is about grounding yourself in what is real, what is present, what is actionable. Toxic thoughts cannot survive in the present moment because they rely on the past and future to maintain their power. Fear lives in the future. Shame lives in the past. Anxiety lives in both. But the present moment is simply what is. It contains no narrative, no judgment, no catastrophe. And when your attention returns to what is happening right now, the mind stops spinning long enough to breathe. There is a simple practice for this. One of the most powerful techniques used in both Stoic philosophy and modern cognitive therapy. When you feel your mind spiraling, pause and ask, what needs my attention right now? Not later, not tomorrow, now. Usually the answer is something small and concrete. Your breath, a task in front of you, a conversation, the weight of your body against the chair, the way light falls across the room. These small anchors pull your attention back into the present, where clarity returns and the distortions of fear lose their grip. But understanding attention is only half the transformation. The second half is motion, because the mind follows the body more closely than most people realize. If attention is the spotlight, the body is the stage manager that changes the scene. The moment the body shifts, the mind receives new signals, new cues, new rhythms. This is why stillness often strengthens anxiety. When the body is frozen, the nervous system interprets it as danger. It assumes something is wrong. It tightens. It prepares for threat. Your thoughts speed up because your physiology is acting like you are under attack. This is why overthinking feels loudest when you lie awake at night. Your body is still. Your environment is still, but your mind is racing because stillness has triggered a survival response. The mind begins scanning for trouble it can't find in the outside world, so it starts creating it in the inside world. The storm begins not because you are weak, but because your body is sending the wrong signals. But motion interrupts this cycle instantly. When you stand and stretch, your mind receives new information. We are not in danger. When you walk, your breath deepens, your muscles activate, your senses awaken. The brain shifts from survival mode into processing mode, and thoughts begin to untangle. Problems that felt enormous become manageable. Emotions that felt permanent become temporary. The storm settles because the body changed its posture toward the world. The Stoics understood this deeply. They did not sit in stillness all day pondering philosophy. They walked while thinking. They trained physically. They engaged with the world. Aristotle taught while walking because he knew movement opens the mind. Modern neuroscience has confirmed what the ancients already knew. Walking increases creative thinking, reduces rumination, and activates regions of the brain involved in problem solving. You literally think differently when you move. If your mind is stuck, your body is stuck. If your thoughts feel tangled, your energy is stagnant. If your attention keeps returning to the same loops, your physiology has fallen into the same patterns. And the simplest, most immediate way to disrupt this is by changing your body's state. You don't need to run. You don't need to work out. You don't need to do anything extreme. You simply need to move. Stand up. Stretch your arms overhead. Walk to another room. Step outside for fresh air. Shake your hands and let tension leave your shoulders. Every small motion signals safety to your nervous system. Every shift in posture tells your mind that the world is not collapsing. The storm begins to dissipate because the body no longer reinforces it. This is why animals, after surviving a moment of threat, shake their bodies violently. They release the tension so their mind can return to calm. Humans experience stress, then sit in it for hours, letting the nervous system grow tighter until the mind begins creating emotional storms to match the physical ones. But you can choose differently. You can choose motion over stagnation. You can choose presence over mental spirals. You can choose to move your attention like a beam of light onto what brings clarity instead of confusion. And here is the deeper truth. Your attention and your body are not two separate systems. They are one integrated feedback loop. Your attention influences your physical state. Your physical state influences your attention. When you learn to master both, your mind begins to work with you instead of against you. Imagine this scenario for a moment. You wake up with a negative thought. Instead of believing it, your attention shifts to your breath. Instead of lying in bed, analyzing it, you sit up, stretch, feel the ground beneath your feet. The mind calms slightly. You stand and walk slowly while noticing the sound of your footsteps. The thought appears again, but you label it and watch it pass. You return your attention to what is in front of you. You choose which direction your mind goes, not out of denial, but out of awareness. Suddenly, a thought that once consumed your entire morning becomes a passing cloud. This is what emotional mastery looks like. Not perfection, not permanent positivity, but the ability to guide your attention and your body in ways that support your clarity instead of your chaos. And if you practice this daily, something extraordinary happens. Your default patterns begin to change. The mind becomes less reactive. Worries begin to fade faster. You spend less time in imagined futures and more time in the present. Your attention naturally gravitates toward what you can control, and your body naturally responds with calm instead of panic. The world around you doesn't change, but your relationship with it transforms. You begin to feel grounded instead of scattered. You begin to feel capable instead of overwhelmed. You begin to feel present instead of trapped in old mental loops. And slowly, your life begins to take the shape of someone who is no longer at the mercy of unconscious habits, but guided by deliberate awareness. This is the power of attention. This is the power of motion. This is the foundation of a clear and stable mind. And it is available to you every single day, in every single moment, with every single breath. Whenever you are ready, we go deeper. Mental input and the stories you tell yourself. There is a quiet truth about the mind that almost no one teaches you growing up, yet it determines the entire emotional quality of your life. Your mind is not a sealed chamber. It is a permeable world, absorbing every sound, every voice, every image, every environment, every conversation, every piece of information you expose it to. And everything the mind absorbs leaves a trace, a residue, a coloration, a bending or reshaping of the inner landscape. People like to imagine that their thoughts come from some pure, neutral place, arising organically from within. But this has never been true. Much of what you think, fear, believe, worry about, or compare yourself to is not originating from your own consciousness at all. It is borrowed, absorbed, inherited, or implanted through the things you consume. What flows into the mind, sooner or later, becomes what flows out. Look at your day honestly. The moment you wake, what enters your mind? For many, the first input is a glowing screen. News of disasters, tragedies, scandals, arguments among strangers, perfectly curated images of lives that look easier, happier, or more beautiful than yours. Before you have even taken your first conscious breath of the day, your mind has already absorbed tones of panic, urgency, comparison, conflict. You haven't even stood up yet, but your internal world is already being shifted toward anxiety, doubt, or dissatisfaction. This is not accidental. It is mechanical. The mind internalizes what it consumes the way the body internalizes food. And just as your physical health collapses when you feed yourself poorly for long enough, your mental health collapses when you consume mental junk without awareness. But consumption is only half the story. The other half, the deeper half, is the narrative engine inside you. The mind is always interpreting, always narrating, always assigning meaning to what it takes in. The mind does not merely see an event. It tells a story about that event. It doesn't just witness a moment. It constructs a narrative around what that moment means for your identity, your worth, your future. This narrator inside you, this voice that explains life to you, is powerful beyond measure. And yet, most people never challenge it. They take its stories as truth, forgetting that the narrator isn't always wise, rational, or grounded. Much of the time, the narrator is an echo of old wounds, a leftover voice from childhood, a reflection of the environments you've been submerged in, a subtle accumulation of everything your mind has soaked up over years. There is a presence in your mind that speaks constantly, commenting on your life, evaluating your actions, predicting outcomes, analyzing relationships, interpreting silence, guessing motives, projecting fears. And the terrifying part is this. Most of what that narrator says is fiction. Not malicious fiction, not intentional deception, but instinctive storytelling based on limited information, outdated memories, and everything your mind has been exposed to recently. The inputs you feed your mind become the raw materials your narrator uses to build the stories you live inside. If you consume chaos, your narrator tells chaotic stories. If you consume comparison, your narrator tells stories of inadequacy. If you consume anger, your narrator interprets neutral events as threats. If you consume superficial perfection, your narrator tells you that your real life is insufficient. The mind reflects its environment even when you think you're not paying attention. Imagine you walk into a room filled with loud arguments. You feel tense even if no one is speaking to you. Now imagine spending 30 minutes scrolling through an online environment built on arguments, outrage, conflict. The tension enters your mind the same way, except you don't notice the door it walked through. Modern life creates this illusion that digital consumption is harmless because it's not physical. But the mind cannot differentiate between what it sees and what it emotionally absorbs. The internal world responds as if the chaos is happening directly to you. That is why negative inputs, especially those repeated daily, begin to shape your worldview, your expectations, your relationships, your sense of self. Your narrator begins to use the language of the content you consume. It learns to catastrophize, to assume bad intentions, to magnify mistakes, to anticipate betrayal, to obsess over flaws. It learns to create stories that echo the noise you've allowed into your head. But here is the truth. The Stoics understood centuries before modern psychology confirmed it. You cannot control every thought that appears in your mind, but you can control the conditions that shape those thoughts. You can control what the mind takes in. You can choose what environments to expose yourself to. You can choose the voices you allow near your inner world. You can decide whether your narrator speaks with fear or with clarity. And you do this by controlling your inputs. Ask yourself honestly, what did your mind consume today? What has it been consuming this week, this month, this year? If your inner world is full of anxiety, negativity, or self-doubt, it's not because you're broken. It's because you're absorbing mental toxins. You are inhaling cognitive pollution the way lungs inhale smoke. And then you wonder why breathing becomes difficult. But the deeper problem is not what you consume. It is the story you form after consuming it. The mind tries to make sense of every input by creating meaning. That meaning is shaped by your beliefs, your fears, your past experiences. If you see a photo of someone succeeding, your narrator may tell you that you're falling behind. If you hear about someone's misfortune, your narrator may use it as evidence that life is unsafe. If you encounter conflict online, your narrator may begin to see conflict everywhere. And slowly, the stories you tell yourself become the lens through which you interpret reality. Reality itself does not change. Your perception does. And perception is the foundation of emotional experience. Imagine someone doesn't reply to your message. The event is neutral. The story is not. Your narrator might say, "They are ignoring me," or "I said something wrong," or "They don't care anymore," or even "Something bad must have happened." None of these stories are facts. They are interpretations. And interpretations become emotions. One neutral event generates a dozen emotional outcomes, depending entirely on the input and the narrator. Now imagine if your mind has been fed constant negativity, insecurity, comparison, or fear. Your narrator will naturally interpret everything through that filter. A delayed message becomes rejection. A mistake becomes failure. A silence becomes judgment. A setback becomes a catastrophe. And because you emotionally experience the story as if it were true, your mind suffers even when your life is fine. That is why controlling your input is only the first step. The second step, the deeper step, is learning to question your stories. Every time your narrator delivers a judgment, pause and ask, what are the facts? What actually happened? What assumptions am I adding? What story am I constructing out of pure habit? You will be shocked by the gap between events and your interpretation of them. When you learn to separate facts from stories, your emotional life transforms. Facts are simple, facts are manageable, facts are neutral. It is the stories that crush you. It is the stories that break your confidence. It is the stories that create fear, anger, insecurity, or despair. But once you recognize your narrator as a storyteller, not a truth teller, you unlock the ability to rewrite your internal life. You can choose stories that are fair instead of cruel, grounded instead of catastrophic, compassionate instead of judgmental. You are not lying to yourself by doing this. You are choosing clarity over distortion. Imagine the narrator sees a mistake, and instead of declaring, "This is proof I'm not good enough," it says, "This is part of learning." Imagine it sees silence from someone you care about, and instead of whispering, "You're being rejected," it says, "People get busy." Imagine it observes a setback, and instead of claiming, "Everything is falling apart," it says, "This is difficult, but temporary." These stories are still rooted in truth. They simply do not add unnecessary suffering. And gradually, through these small shifts, your inner world becomes gentle instead of hostile, clear instead of chaotic, supportive instead of punishing. But to rewrite the narrator, you must first protect the inputs that shape it. Be ruthless with what you allow into your mind. Limit your exposure to environments that foster envy or anger. Unfollow accounts that manipulate your insecurities. Stop consuming constant negativity disguised as information. Create boundaries with people who drain your energy. Curate music, content, conversations, and social environments that uplift your mind rather than fill it with noise. Your mental input determines the stories your narrator builds, and the stories your narrator builds determine the emotional reality you live in. You cannot transform your life without transforming what your mind absorbs daily. Ask yourself this question: if my thoughts are a reflection of my inputs, what kind of inner world am I creating through the content I consume? If your mind were a garden, what seeds are you planting? Complaints, comparison, fear, drama, gossip, chaos, or wisdom, possibility, gratitude, truth, presence? Every seed grows eventually, and the narrator will use whatever grows to tell you stories. Either stories that destroy you or stories that strengthen you. The Stoics understood that the mind becomes what it consistently welcomes. Seneca warned that the greatest danger is not what happens to you, but the influences you allow to shape your thinking. They recognized that discipline begins not with actions, but with attention and input. If you control what enters the mind, you control the raw material from which all thoughts are made. You don't need a perfect environment. You don't need silence. You simply need awareness. Awareness of what you're feeding your mind. Awareness of how your narrator interprets life. Awareness of the gap between events and stories. Awareness of the power you have to shape both. Your inner world will always reflect what you expose yourself to, and your emotional life will always reflect the stories you tell. But you are not powerless. You are the gatekeeper. You are the author. You are the curator of your mental universe. And the day you choose to protect your inputs and rewrite your stories is the day your inner world begins to transform. Closing loops and clearing space. There comes a point in every life when the mind feels unbearably crowded, not because of some grand tragedy or overwhelming crisis, but because of the quiet accumulation of unfinished business, hundreds of loose ends, unresolved moments, small avoided tasks, postponed conversations, half-made decisions, and promises you whispered to yourself and then abandoned. Most people don't realize this is happening. They wake up each morning already tired, already heavy, already scattered, without ever asking why. They assume it is stress or circumstance or lack of discipline, but beneath all of that, there is something simpler, something more invisible and far more destructive. The mind is drowning in open loops. An open loop is anything your mind considers incomplete. It doesn't matter how small it is. A message you haven't replied to, a drawer you haven't organized, a bill you haven't paid, a decision you keep postponing, a conversation you know you need but keep avoiding, a dream you made a commitment to pursue, then quietly let die. Each one sits quietly in the background, tugging at your awareness like a child pulling your sleeve. And the mind, designed to seek closure, keeps cycling back to these loops even when you're not consciously thinking about them. It's like having dozens of browser tabs open at once. Each one consumes a little mental bandwidth, a little emotional energy, a little piece of your presence, until the whole system lags. Your mind was never built to manage endless unresolved items. It seeks completion, resolution, clarity. When something remains unfinished, the brain registers it as a problem, even when it's trivial. That's why you can't relax even when you're resting. Why your anxiety spikes for reasons you can't name. Why your focus shatters even when nothing dramatic is happening. Your inner world is being pulled in 20 different directions by all the things you haven't completed, haven't closed, haven't released. And the tragedy is that modern life encourages this fragmentation. You accumulate tasks faster than you complete them. Notifications pull you from one half-task to the next. You start the day with good intentions, but end it with more loose ends than you began with. Over time, this builds into a kind of mental clutter so heavy it becomes a constant fog. You start to think this fog is your personality, when in truth it is only accumulated incompletion. But here is what most people never understand. Open loops are not neutral. They drain you. They weaken your mental clarity. They create low-level stress that simmers beneath the surface and spills into every part of your emotional life. You may tell yourself you're fine, but your mind is burning resources on unresolved patterns you haven't had the courage, discipline, or time to face. This is not a moral failing. It is a human one. You were never taught how to close loops. You were taught how to start things, commit to things, strive for things, but rarely how to complete, conclude, or let go. So you collect unfinished pieces of your life until they form an emotional weight that feels like exhaustion or anxiety or laziness or lack of motivation. But it is none of these. It is mental overload. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology gave it a name. They believed that clarity, the ability to see the world and oneself accurately, comes from order, not chaos. They treated the mind like a space to be maintained, like a sanctuary that must remain clean for the spirit to function well. They understood that unresolved matters are a kind of inner debris, and that peace requires eliminating unnecessary weight. Closing loops is not about productivity. It is about reclaiming your mind. To begin, you must first see the loops. This part is uncomfortable because it forces you to face everything you've been avoiding. But avoidance is the greatest thief of clarity. When you avoid what is unresolved, you don't escape it. You simply carry it. The mind does not forget what you avoid. It hides it in corners, but the weight remains. So sit down with yourself and bring everything into the light. Write down every task, every overdue decision, every lingering obligation, every conversation you've postponed, every promise you broke to yourself. Do not judge yourself for what appears on the list. Judging will only make you avoid the truth again. This is not about shame. This is about taking inventories of your mental landscape. When you do this honestly, you will feel something almost immediate. Relief. Not because the loops are closed, but because the invisible has become visible. When the mind can finally see the whole, it stops trying to juggle the pieces unconsciously. Awareness itself is freeing. Once the loops are visible, the real work begins. Closing a loop does not always mean finishing it. Sometimes closure means completing a task. Sometimes it means making a decision you've avoided. Sometimes it means confronting someone to resolve tension. Sometimes it means declaring a project dead instead of keeping it on life support out of guilt. Sometimes closure means releasing something you've outgrown, but couldn't let go of. The mind only demands resolution, not perfection, but you must choose. A loop cannot remain open without costing you. Choose to finish it or choose to end it, but do not allow it to remain indefinitely unresolved. That is where most suffering comes from. Indefinite avoidance, indefinite postponing, indefinite uncertainty. Your mind cannot breathe in uncertainty that never moves. Start with something small. Answer the message you've ignored. Declutter this corner of your room that has been irritating your subconscious for months. Schedule the appointment you've been delaying. Make the decision you've been circling around. Every loop you close returns a piece of your energy to you. Every loose end tied brings clarity. Every act of completion strengthens your inner stability. And something else happens, something subtle but profound. When you close one loop, you create momentum. Completion is addictive. The mind loves resolution so deeply that finishing even a small loop makes you want to finish others. Without realizing it, you begin rewiring your identity, shifting from someone overwhelmed by unfinished tasks into someone who creates closure, someone who takes ownership of their mental world. But loops are only half of this part of the journey. The other half is the physical environment you live in. People underestimate how deeply their surroundings affect their mind. They believe clutter is merely aesthetic, a matter of personal preference. But clutter is not just physical, it is psychological. The mind processes every object in your space, consciously or unconsciously. A pile of clothes becomes a reminder of neglect. A messy desk becomes a symbol of chaos. A disorganized room becomes a source of subtle tension. And just like open loops, physical clutter drains cognitive resources. Your environment is a reflection of your inner world, and your inner world mirrors your environment. A cluttered space reinforces a cluttered mind. A chaotic environment amplifies mental noise. A messy room breeds procrastination because the brain associates the space with overwhelm rather than clarity. You cannot think freely when your physical world is screaming for your attention. This is why cleaning, organizing, and simplifying are not superficial tasks. They are acts of psychological restoration. They are the external equivalent of closing loops. When you clean your space, you create order. When you create order, you create calm. When your senses encounter simplicity, your mind relaxes into clarity. You remove silent stresses you weren't even aware were weighing on you. There is a reason many people suddenly feel emotional when they declutter. They are not crying over objects. They are releasing the weight those objects carried. They are witnessing the internal shift that comes from creating physical space where there was once suffocation. A clear environment is not about perfectionism. It is about support. Your space should support your clarity, not sabotage it. Begin small here as well. Clean one shelf. Organize one drawer. Remove items you don't use. Simplify your digital spaces too. Delete files you no longer need. Unsubscribe from unnecessary notifications. Clear apps and that drain you. Every bit of physical clearing returns mental space. And something else happens when you clear your environment. The mind becomes more honest. In clutter, the mind hides. In cleanliness, it reveals. When there is space in your physical surroundings, there is space for your mind to breathe, feel, see, and process. This is why minimalism, in its truest form, is not aesthetic, but psychological. It is the removal of silent friction. Closing loops and clearing space are the twin practices that restore mental clarity. One deals with unresolved past actions. The other deals with the present physical environment. Together, they remove the weight that keeps your mind in constant tension. You deserve a mind that feels light enough to think clearly. You deserve an inner world that is not suffocated by unfinished business. You deserve a physical world that calms you rather than overwhelms you. And these things are not luxuries, they are necessities. When you begin closing loops and clearing space, you discover something astonishing. The clarity you were searching for was not hiding behind complexity. It was hiding beneath what you refused to resolve, beneath clutter, beneath avoidance, beneath postponed decisions, beneath environments that drained instead of supported you. Clarity is not created. It is uncovered, and you uncover it with every loop you close, every space you tidy, every decision you finalize, every burden you release. You reclaim your mind piece by piece, quietly, steadily, deliberately. Mental freedom through non-resistance and consistency. There is a moment in every person's inner journey when they finally realize that fighting their own mind has never brought them peace. You can wrestle with your thoughts for years, argue with them, resist them, drown them out with noise, try to discipline them into silence, and yet the more force you use, the more powerful the thoughts become. The harder you push them away, the harder they push back. The more you fear them, the more they multiply. If you have ever lain awake at night, trying desperately to stop your mind from replaying a memory or injecting fear into your chest or creating a story that you know is irrational but still feels real, then you already understand this truth. Resistance never liberates you. It only deepens the imprisonment. What most people never learn is that your mind is not healed by force. It is healed by understanding. A thought is like a wave on the surface of the ocean, fleeting, temporary, arising and dissolving. But when you resist a thought, when you declare war on it, when you treat it as an intruder rather than a passing ripple, you give it a form and weight that it never actually possessed. You transform a momentary mental event into a threat, and the mind responds accordingly. Your nervous system tightens, your breath shortens, your muscles contract. The body prepares for a danger that exists only in your interpretation. Before long, the fight inside your head becomes a physical storm, and you mistake that storm for truth. Human suffering does not come from thoughts themselves. It comes from the belief that thoughts should not exist, the expectation that the mind should always be quiet, the pressure to control its movements, its whispers, its patterns. But the mind was never meant to be perfectly still. It is not a statue. It is not a silent temple. It is a living landscape filled with patterns, impulses, memories, predictions, images, fragments of stories, old fears resurfacing, new ideas forming. The subconscious trying to process what you've refused to face consciously. The mind is an ecosystem, not a machine. And ecosystems cannot be controlled by force. They respond to attention, awareness, and acceptance. Acceptance, in this sense, does not mean agreeing with every thought or allowing the mind to dictate your life. It means recognizing that thoughts arise naturally, that you are not at fault for having them, and that resisting them only gives them more energy. Acceptance is the quiet pause that says, "This is here. I will observe it. I will not make it bigger by fighting it." When you stop resisting, thoughts lose their urgency. They appear like clouds drifting across a vast sky, not like storms capable of destroying you. They lose their power because you stop feeding them. But acceptance alone is not the entire transformation. The deeper transformation comes from the second half of this journey: consistency. Most people seek breakthroughs. They want one moment of insight to erase years of psychological patterns. They want one ritual, one meditation, one video, one decision to sweep away everything that has ever hurt them. But breakthroughs are illusions. They feel powerful in the moment, yes, like lightning splitting the darkness for a fraction of a second. But no darkness stays gone because of lightning. Real change comes from something quieter, steadier, almost invisible to the untrained eye. The daily repetition of small actions that realign your mind with clarity. Consistency is the discipline of choosing truth over fear again and again. It is the practice of noticing thoughts without believing them, not just once, but every time they arise. It is the commitment to grounding yourself in the present moment, repeatedly, even when your mind tries to drag you into the past or push you into the future. It is the willingness to make one small decision that benefits your mental clarity each day, even on days when you feel tired, overwhelmed, or unmotivated. It is the promise you make to yourself that you will continue to show up for your mind, even when the progress feels slow. And slow is exactly how transformation occurs. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote every day, not because he needed inspiration, but because he understood that the mind naturally drifts. Epictetus repeated lessons endlessly, not because his students were incapable, but because repetition is what makes wisdom sink into the bones. Seneca reflected constantly, not because he doubted himself, but because self-awareness grows through steady attention, not sudden revelation. Consistency is the soil in which clarity grows, but modern life has trained people to expect speed. You see stories online of individuals who changed their lives in 30 days, or who claim to have unlocked new levels of inner peace overnight. You compare yourself to those illusions and conclude that something must be wrong with you because your mind does not transform as quickly. But that is a lie. Real change is slow. Real change is deliberate. Real change is the accumulation of small choices repeated until they form a new identity. There is nothing wrong with you if your journey takes time. It is supposed to. Every time you choose not to resist a negative thought, you are reprogramming your nervous system. Every time you pause and breathe, instead of spiraling, you are teaching your mind a new pattern. Every time you ground yourself in the present moment, you are weakening the pathways of anxiety. Every time you release a thought, instead of fighting it, you are strengthening clarity. Every tiny action performed consistently reshapes your mental world. But the shaping is slow, subtle, and almost invisible at first. That is why most people quit before the transformation becomes obvious. They expect linear progress. But the mind does not change linearly. It changes quietly, then suddenly. One day, you will realize that a thought which once terrified you no longer triggers you. One day, a situation that once overwhelmed you will feel manageable. One day, the voice in your mind will speak with more compassion than criticism. One day, the story you tell yourself will be grounded rather than catastrophic. And those changes will not come from a single event, but from months of daily efforts, almost too small to notice individually but monumental when woven together. This is the essence of mental freedom. not the absence of thoughts, but the presence of awareness strong enough to guide your attention instead of surrendering it. Not the elimination of fear, but the ability to stay grounded while fear moves through you. Not perfection, but resilience. Not silence, but harmony. A mind that can hold thoughts without collapsing into them. A mind that can witness its patterns without drowning. A mind that recognizes the wave without believing it is the ocean. And at the center of this inner shift lies one decision. The decision to take ownership of your mental space. The decision to stop letting external noise, old stories, or automatic reactions dictate the quality of your inner world. The decision to practice, to return, to try again, to stay consistent, even when your mind resists. The decision to stop tolerating inner toxicity as if it is inevitable. The decision to build a new baseline for your life. One in which clarity is not rare, where peace is not temporary, where you are no longer afraid of your own thoughts. If this message resonates with you, I want to take a moment here to ask something important. Support the Pure Stoic Practice channel by subscribing, leaving a comment, and sharing your reflections. Your engagement helps this channel grow, and it fuels the motivation to continue creating deep, meaningful content that strengthens your mind. Thank you for being part of this community and for contributing to its growth. The truth is that mental clarity is not a gift granted to a lucky few. It is a practice, and practices require consistency, devotion, and patience. You do not need intensity. You do not need perfection. You need willingness, a willingness to pause, a willingness to observe, a willingness to accept what arises, a willingness to choose small actions every day, a willingness to let the mind unfold gradually, the way dawn replaces night. Not suddenly, but inevitably. When you choose consistency over intensity, you choose transformation over illusion. When you choose acceptance over resistance, you choose peace over chaos. When you choose daily practice, you choose a future self that is stronger, clearer, and more grounded than the person you are today. There will still be days when your mind feels loud. There will still be moments when fear resurfaces. There will still be times when old thoughts return. But those moments no longer hold the same power. They no longer define you. They no longer command your behavior. They simply pass through, like weather systems moving across a vast internal sky. That is the miracle consistency creates. Not a mind that never storms, but a mind that no longer mistakes the storm for the end of the world. In the end, your mind becomes what you train it to be, and every small choice you make becomes part of that training. Every moment of awareness is a step toward liberation. Every act of acceptance expands your inner freedom. Every day you show up, even imperfectly, is a victory. Your mind can become a place of clarity, a place of stability, a place of peace, a place you are no longer afraid to enter. And the path begins with one decision, followed by one action, repeated until it becomes your nature. Whenever you're ready, your new mind begins.